Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Can It Take a K26, the show where we take a variety of blasters and see if they can be upgraded using a K26 spring, and if not, what can they be upgraded with? I am your host, Captain Xavier, and today we're going to be looking at two newer blasters. One bought, one borrowed. We'll start with the one I bought, the Nailbiter. The Nailbiter was released in 2019 as part of the Zombie Strike line, and it's fairly interesting. It's got some features that we've seen in a few blasters before, but combined in ways that I don't think we've ever seen, or at least not anytime recently. It is a double action slide or clip, depending on which term you prefer, fed blaster. So every time you pull the trigger, it indexes the slide and fires another round, which is fairly neat. The slide does not come out, though people have modified it so that you can, if you somehow got a whole bunch of these. I think it's kind of interesting that they went with another proprietary system. I don't know how hard it would have been to make this take Battle Scout clips, slides. It would have, made it, had to been straight, but I don't know if that would have been all that much more difficult, and then people might have had a use for their Battle Scout slides. But they didn't, unfortunately. But still, I'm a big fan of any blaster that can be used one-handed that isn't electronic. I love strifes and all of that, and those are fantastic, but batteries run out, whereas this isn't going to run out of batteries. And you could, in fact, dual-wield them. Now, firing them one-handed, there is some barrel wobble as a result of you having to squeeze the handle, though not as much as I would have feared. If you're firing it, just one of them, you have this convenient foregrip kind of area that you can hold to brace, and it does take a stock and barrel, if you want to put a barrel on it. And there is, of course, a stock and barrel set that are clearly meant for it, because this is clearly we've made a zombie-killing weapon out of tools motif. So you've got a barrel that has a circle cutter that extends, which, not a huge fan of that, especially not because on the inside you then have a double lip that could potentially catch darts, and that wouldn't be great. But it's neat. And one thing that it was pointed out that you could do with this is make a breach, where twisting this opens a small half-dart breach right here. It definitely extends far enough to fully open a half-dart brass breach that you could put right there, and then that would close it. That would be cool, and I will probably do that. The stock holds darts, and sticking with the whole tool motif, this is very clearly a drill bit case that has been converted into a stock, and that is just clever. I like it. It holds 8 darts, which is a full reload for this, and you can just push here to pop it out and reload and then close it back up. They're a little bit exposed, which could be a problem. If you're right-handed, it would be less of a problem, I think. Or maybe not. I don't know. Either way, you might end up, mangling the outer set of darts. There is also an opening here. I'm not sure what that is for, but it's there. You could put dart. It's big enough for darts, or you could put MacGuffins or a notepad and a pencil. Who knows? Whatever you want. But when you've got the stock on it, now it's much easier to brace just up against your arm. You can tuck it under your arm and brace it really well. You can brace it against your arm. It's nice. But the fact that you can dual wield them, I approve of. So, but what we want to know, having now blabbed about it, is can it take a K26? Now, if you watch Wacom's channel, you already know the answer, but we're going to check anyway. Alright, well, we are in, and it is a fairly simple mechanism. Solid catch system, that's nice. Or a kind of the catch system. This doesn't have a catch that it goes back and locks into, it just goes back till it reaches a certain point, and then part of the frame lowers this part, which apparently is on this side of the blaster. Yep, the release is on the other side. Releases that, and it goes forward. So, that is handy because we don't have to worry about... We do still have to worry about compression because it needs to get at least far enough back to engage that, but that should be less of an issue than you would see in your typical catch system. The plunger head does not come off, but it looks like the plunger rod is 2 parts and does come apart nicely. That is lovely. Not a particularly long spring. And looky there, we have a section of K26. That's exactly the right length. We just need to file down the front supports a little bit. All right, so it's got technically 9 coils because it does still have the squared off, or the flattened off end. If it won't compress, then of course we'll take that out. But basically it's more or less the same length as the stock spring. A little bit longer, just because I suspect we can get away with it. We will find out here in a second. This spring is a wily one. It's not hooked onto its base well. You might spot glue it or something. But, alright, we've got the K26 in. We've got it all reassembled. We just need to button it up. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Cellular.
Simply genius. Alright, quick test before I finish buttoning it up to see if I can still prime it. Yep. It will still prime and release, so let's finish buttoning it up and then test it. Alright. Can still prime it. There's a little bit more, probably a little bit more barrel wobble, and obviously you're going to get a lot more hand fatigue priming K26, but it's still, you can still pop them off fairly easily. As Walcom said, probably not the best spring because it's so heavy. Your hand is going to get tired pretty quick. I'm going to go get the actual, well, hold on. All right. Yep. You can still prime it. I can still prime it one-handed. Your wrist is going to get sore right here pretty quick, but it will take a K26. Let's go get some new ranges on it, numbers on this thing. Well, that is fascinating. No noticeable improvement whatsoever. It's definitely a heavier prime because this is definitely a lighter spring than K26, but the FPS is exactly the same, right around 60, 61, and the range is right about the same, right around 60. So clearly, between the plunger size, the seal between the plunger and the clip, and the barrel fit in the clip itself, can't handle all of the added power is being lost in inefficiency in there somewhere. So you might be able to improve it if you improved the seal, or if you improved the barrel seal by adding brass, but more than likely the plunger is just not large enough for it to make enough of a difference. So I'm really tempted to just put the old spring back in because that added draw is a serious detriment. And I really do like this blaster for its silliness. I like that it's in my colors. I appreciate that they're making more things in black and orange. Between the new AccuStrike line and these, it makes my life easier. Anyway, I will probably downgrade this just so that the prime is easier, but for those of you who really want this to be a lot more powerful, the system can support heavier springs, but you're going to need to make additional improvements if you really want to get more performance out of it. So, that's my take on that. On to the next contestant after these messages. All of the K26 used on this series was donated by Out of Darts. Check out his new website at outofdarts.com for all your Nerf modding needs. Our next contestant was lent to me by Brett, who sometimes wears a beret. In fact, I believe he was wearing a beret when he handed me this. The Shadow ICS-6. The Shadow was released in 2019 as part of the Ghost Top lines. As such, it lights up. It's clear and it lights up. There's actually an additional light that when there's a barrel on, there's a button right here that gets pressed, and then there's a light in the barrel that lights up your barrel if you have a clear barrel. Anyway, ICS, of course, stands for Internal Clip System. Yes, it's really a magazine. Moving on. And it holds 6 rounds. And I like that as a concept because I like anything where you can top off your magazine. That's just a neat idea. 6 isn't a great capacity, but since you can pull off the ground or pull from dump pouches, that's handy if you're playing in, you know, an internal war or inside war where there's lots of darts lying around and you have plenty of cover. That's somewhere where you can easily top off. I like that. It's got lower rail on both under the magazine as well as under the knuckle duster grip, which I just love those in general. It's got rail on the side there, but not on the left side. Shame on you, Hasbro. Shame. No top rail. It does have barrel and stock attachment points, so that is neat. The one thing that I find very counterintuitive about this, because it's different from all the other internal clip systems, the Magnus and the Han Solo blaster and the Ray blaster, is that you have to have the blaster unprimed to be able to load it, which is also different from almost every other clip system blaster, where you have to have it primed in order to take the magazine out. In this one, it has to be unprimed for you to be able to load. If you prime it, then this part comes back and you can no longer load, and so if you want to load, you now have to dry fire, which in a stock blaster isn't a problem. But in a war, that could be an issue. If you wanted to top it off and instinctively, because you're used to it, you prime the blaster to go to put darts, and now you have to shoot before you can reload, and you might not be wanting to shoot, and that could lead to problems. So if you're going to use this, you're going to want to practice and make sure you remember not to prime it. The whole unprimed system is very similar to the Centurion in that regards, which of course confuses people, where they're used to having to prime the blaster to take the magazine out, but with the Centurion you have to not have the blaster primed, or at least you have to have the bolt forward. Anyway, it's convoluted. And you can see from the internals that there's a lot of little moving parts in here, and so I'm hoping I can figure out how to put this one back together. But naturally, what we really want to know is, can this thing take a K26? So, let's get it open and find out. Lord have mercy, let me hope I can get this back together when the time comes. Spring and springs. I don't think I've lost any yet, but I springed them. Okay. We've gotten to the plunger tube. Okay, let's get the... Okay, so taking the AR out would be super simple. That's just like, you know, a night finder or what have you, as far as getting that out. Oh, phew. That is a tragic little spring. And it's one of those style of plunger heads, which is almost certainly going to prevent us from getting K26 into this thing. Maybe. It has an unusual catch mechanism. It doesn't catch like your typical magazine-fed blaster. Oh, that spring is going to be a nightmare to get back in place, I think. There are too many moving parts in this thing. I'm not even sure. Okay, that's the catch. What does that actually catch on? Which way does this actually go? Oh, okay. I was hoping we could cut this section off, but unfortunately that is the part that it catches on. So, yeah, no. Definitely not going to be able to get K26 into this, but I might have some heavier springs that will fit. We're going to try. It's a long spring with some pre-compression, but it's narrow. If we could find something that would fit around that plunger tube, well, that would be... I think that's going to be too short, though. Maybe not. That would be... I'm going to try that. I doubt that's going to work, but I'm going to try that. Oh. We're getting full compression with that. Okay. All right. I'll give it a go. I have put a hammer shot spring in it. No, I just no. Oh, luckily they've made it so that you can really only put it back together one way. We should definitely try to increase that catch spring. Okay, I think I have all of the springs in the right place, going the right direction. I'm going to try to button it up after a word from our sponsor.
Peanut butter.
May his words give me strength. That worked! I am baffled. So, I was able to double it up with a stock hammer shot spring. I then increased the catch spring using Fastenal 155, my go-to catch spring. And it's catching. And it appears to still be working. I'm going to go put some darts through and see if it's if its performance improved at all. Let's go find out. Success! It went from stock numbers, which were about 60 FPS and getting about 60-foot ranges, to 80 FPS and 80-foot ranges. So, you know, a 1/3 increase is not terrible. It's a little bit, definitely a heftier prime, but not unreasonably so. You can get your hand on it, and it primes consistently. That really very much impressed me. A pump grip kit would not be difficult. I mean, it would not be hard to modify any of the retaliator ones too much to be able to fit it onto there. It could definitely do with a better breach because it doesn't even completely cover the dart, which is interesting. Though, if you the vast majority of stock blasters, only the first ½ inch of the dart is actually tightly fit into a barrel. That does limit, you know, what kind of breaches you could make for it. Though you could then, you know, make a short brass barrel that went around that. A lot of limitations with this particular design, but it can be improved. So that's nice. If I were to get one, I would make it translucent orange because that's my preference to clear, and probably change the LED color or just remove the LEDs altogether. I don't see the point of a blaster that lights up. It's just not my thing, but it's shiny if you like it. So let's recap. All right, for those of you just tuning in or who just skipped to the end to see the results, that was a yes for the Nailbiter, but a no for it having any improvement whatsoever. Oddly enough, the performance was exactly the same with K26, except it's a heavier prime. I suspect the plunger is too small and the various seals aren't good enough to actually utilize that. If you were to improve those, it might increase the performance, and it also might not. The small plunger tube is really a serious limitation. I will probably downgrade this back to its original setting, just so that the prime is easier. That was then a no for the Shadow, but yes to a spring upgrade. I added a hammer shot spring in addition to its stock spring. Just fit in perfectly and put it all back together, and it got about a 30% or 33% increase in power and range. So that was actually surprising and makes this still not a great blaster, but it has some advantages and some niftiness to it. So I don't think as poorly of it as I did when I started this operation. I'm sure you could actually find a more efficient spring that would still catch and would have more power. You could also quite easily add a pump grip to it. Any of the retaliator pump grips could probably be modified to work with this. They both have stock and barrel attachments, which I like modularity. They both do have rail. This one has a little rail down here. This one's got rail all over it, except on the left side. But yeah, there you have it. Survey results are in, and the Fire Strike won. So that will be the blaster that I do a comprehensive mod guide on, or as comprehensive as I have the skills and knowledge to do. I'm going to do a little bit of research and see what all has been done to it that I've never tried. I've tried, brassing the barrel and, K26ing and all of that, but there may be some interesting things that people have done that I haven't yet tried. So I'm going to look into that. The survey for the next comprehensive mod guide will be down in the description and will be a series of flywheel blasters that I have around, and that I will do a similar concept of doing the simplest mods all the way up to kind of serious top tier internals. Not going to go into cosmetics on either of those much. It's more functionality. Cosmetics are, a whole different game. So look for that. Vote on what you would like to see a mod guide on. I'm going to be doing ones that I haven't done comprehensive mod guides on already. So you're not going to see the Strife, and you probably won't see the Rapid Strike. But there will be some other ones in there that I already have here in the shop somewhere. So let me know if there are other new Springers or old Springers or whatnot that you would like me to try to hunt down, or that you have that you'd like to send to have tested here. Because I am still going to be doing episodes like this once a month, so stay tuned for that. I do have a whole box full of blasters that I need to get to, and I will probably do a whole bunch of them all at once, because they're like cheap dollar store ones that are probably going to shatter when they look at a K26, but that should be an interesting episode. So that's what's going on there. Thank you guys for watching.